guys do not know how to buy underwires. It stresses me out so much. Here we go again. Hey everybody, my name is Kirsten and this is Small Bobbins. It's just a teeny bit of housekeeping. Yes, I took a bit of an extended hiatus from YouTube and I plan to make a really grand return today. I made up my filming space, I set up my studio lights and all of that, and then discovered that my external mics were dead, and so I had to send them off to be repaired. That's like incredibly boring, but it felt urgent to make this video, and so I'm filming in my kind of plywood office pod. I've set up a light next to me. It's a small room, and so it's like very bright and unbalanced, and I'm just using my phone. So the audio might be bad, but hopefully the information is good. And so obviously the whole time that I've been away, my web shop has not been away. I just haven't been making videos. And so if you're discovering me for the first time, I feel a little bit bad for you because I just had a huge sale in January and you'll be a little bit sorry that you missed it. One thing that I noticed during the January sale was that there were tons of people who were shopping with me for the first time, and you know, I'd like to believe there was a lot of this like New Year's energy and people were really excited about getting into lingerie sewing for the first time, and stocking up on a lot of stuff so that they could just like dive into their projects when they were ready to. And one thing I noticed is you guys do not know how to buy underwires. It stresses me out so much. It is my worst nightmare to get an email from somebody saying that like they bought the wrong product, they had no idea why they did it, and they're really upset about it. And even worse, to think that there are people out there who are thinking that but not telling me. So babes, let's get into it. Like, this is how you buy underwires that actually fit you. And the thing is, you cannot stare at a screen long enough to figure out what your underwire size is. You have to compare some sort of size chart to your body, and that will tell you what size you need to get. What do you need to figure out your underwire size? A printer? Maybe, but if you're printing PDF sewing patterns, like you probably have access to a printer anyway, you need an underwire chart. Now, like a good web shop will provide these, and if they don't, like, I would just be wary of buying them. Like, unless they're really saying like, this is the underwire you are using for this pattern, but like, then the pattern should be providing the underwire charts. Like at some point, like you need to be able to print out like, this is what size underwire corresponds to this number. So underwire charts for the wires that you want to buy, and preferably also for the pattern that you want to use. Pencils, paper, scissors, etc. You need some sort of way of like tracing your breast root shape. So either like aluminum foil that you like scrunch up and can mold underneath your breast, or a flexible ruler. This is a flexible ruler. I'm gonna be honest, I have literally never used this since I bought it, so I'm not going to say this is a required thing to have. And then things that might be useful, if you have an underwire bra that fits you well, and you are okay with maybe doing a little bit of surgery on it, get that. And then of course you will also need a seam ripper and something to stitch it back up. And having an underwire bra pattern that you want to use is helpful, but I wouldn't say it's like absolutely necessary, especially if you're really just getting started and you know, picking a pattern that you want to sew can be overwhelming on its own, so we're not covering that in this video. If you have a pattern you want to sew, that's great. We have a good starting point, but I wouldn't say you absolutely need one at this point. The thing is that bra patterns start with the underwire. Like the designer or the drafter, whoever is like creating the underwire bra pattern, they start with the underwire and they draft from there. And so honestly, like if you are sewing an underwire bra at home, like you should start there as well, because if you start with the wrong underwire size, like everything else is messed up. When I was doing research for this video, I was really surprised how often I found that the pattern doesn't really mention how exactly you're supposed to find the correct underwire size. I looked through the instructions of like underwire patterns that I've bought in the past, and other videos that kind of covered this subject, and honestly it's just like, how do people actually figure this out? Like, I can really understand, like, if you're a beginner, like, you should feel betrayed. Like, you are not being led in the right direction. And it kind of makes sense when I see these web shop orders come in. When people are buying underwires from me, I'm just like, what are you thinking? Like, buying all these different sizes, like none of these match each other. These can't be for the same person. And I kind of get it now. You guys aren't getting good guidance. Some patterns that I have really just say, buy 2 wires. It says nothing about how to find the size, nothing about what style or shape they should be. It's kind of like there's this attitude of like, once you figure it out, okay, then you know. But until you get there, you have to do a lot of like trial and error. And it can just be really frustrating when you're just getting started with sewing lingerie. There are so many like bits and bobs that you have to collect. There's so many new things to learn. There's so many like little measurements that can like throw you off. And then on top of that, like there's so many obstacles to just getting yourself to your sewing machine and sitting down and making a project. Any one of those little obstacles can just be really detrimental to your sewing confidence. And so like it's a huge bummer. So that's why I said that like it's okay if you have a pattern in mind that you want to sew. The pattern might have instructions on how to find the correct underwire for sewing that pattern, but even so, it's like those instructions that they give aren't always 100% accurate. Like you might follow their instructions perfectly and get an underwire that doesn't fit you. At the very least, it will get you close, so it can be a good starting point. There were 2 underwire patterns that I have and I've used, and I love them. They're from kind of more well-known indie designers. Both of them just said, like, pick your underwire based on your band and cup size, and they even include a little chart, you know, it'd say like 38B, you wear this size underwire. But both of them give different instructions on how to find your band and cup size. And so when I measure myself, same measurements, 2 different methods for finding the band and cup size, I come out with 2 different bra sizes. And so I come out with 2 different underwire sizes. And so it's like, okay, well, that shape doesn't actually change from bra to bra. Like, so what I'm going to cover in this video is really focused on like, you know, you have a chart, you have a breast, like how do you figure out exactly which one of those correspond? So you can just look up the size you need and use that for every single bra that you're gonna sew. Like the underwire fits along your breast root, and this mostly doesn't change. Like, you know, your weight can fluctuate, your cup size can fluctuate. I've noticed over the past few years, I've gained some weight, and so my band size has gone up, but my underwire size has always stayed the same. But like I said earlier, if you don't start with the correct underwire, then kind of everything else is like the pieces aren't going to fall into place. Like, you know, your cup size can be right, your band size can be right, but if the wire is too big or too small, then it's really going to dig into your body in an uncomfortable way. And there's no fixing that just with like sewing or pattern alterations. Like you need the correct underwire or else it's not going to fit. So first up, since this video is all about how to buy the right underwire, you need to start with a shop that has printable underwire charts. And wow, Small Bobbins has these. So for this, I printed out the size chart for the everyday underwires, since that seems to be one of the most popular styles. It's kind of like a Goldilocks, like not too big, not too plunge. It fits with a lot of very well-known patterns. Just like with your PDF patterns, you have to make sure that you're printing it out at the correct scale. So I have a couple little squares in the corner for checking this. Otherwise, this is a completely useless exercise. And I have a theory. Okay, if you don't have access to a printer, like easy access to a printer, maybe like set yourself in a dark room, get yourself a ruler, set your laptop screen as bright as it can go. If you're trying to do this on a phone, like don't even bother. And make sure you get the scale exactly right, and then put your paper on top of your screen and try to trace it from there. And so now you need to compare like these shapes to your actual like breast root. And like for this, we're going to get like extremely manual. Like we're going to be putting stuff on our body. And so if you have a flexible ruler, like my advice is to kind of like start with the wire chart. Like start with like, these are products that you can buy. Like once you find the matching one, then it's like, okay, I just need to buy like a 95, whatever. I would say like, so if you have a flexible ruler, like start somewhere. and like use the flexible ruler to trace what's on the wire chart as best as you can. It's kind of squirrely, so like just do your best to get the shape. So like this is kind of a 95. And then it's like you have to put it up to your actual chest and compare how that fits. The problem is that like as you're transferring it, and this would go the other way around as well. Like I've seen instructions that are like, use one of these guys, like go like this, and then like compare that to the size chart. Either way, it's like you're not gonna be like precise unless you're being like very careful. And especially if this is your first time figuring out the wire size, like there's room for error. But anyway, and obviously I'm wearing a super thick sweater and I'm kind of like here in the dark. I've got a lot of layers on because it's cold. You should be doing this somewhere with a mirror, somewhere warm and comfortable, and completely naked. Get comfortable. You know, if you're sewing lingerie, you're going to be dealing with your bare body and your boobs a lot anyway, so it's like, here you go. So you have your trace of the underwire, you hold it up to your bare body, and you want it to follow along your breast root. And so that is like the fold of where your chest turns into your breast. And it can be kind of hard to see, especially as it goes up into your underarm, which like, it's still there, it's just can be a bit harder to see. And like the wire, it's not going to be sitting on your breast itself. It's sitting on your chest, but you really have to look out for things like there shouldn't be a gap. It shouldn't be that there's the fold and then a gap and then the wire. It shouldn't be like poking into your boob. It shouldn't be like too far away from your boob. There's a lot of little things, which is why it helps to be naked, so you can really kind of see how it fits against your body, because the bra is going to be going against your bare skin as well. And like, don't be shy about like grabbing the gals and like kind of like lifting them out of the way. Like especially if you're on the bigger side, like, you know, the wire is going to go in that area. It's not going to be smushed up against your boob. So it's like, get it into the right place. Like ideally, I don't know if you guys, maybe this is for another video, but like you're going to be scooping and swooping the gals anyway when you're wearing your well-fitted lingerie piece later on. So, you know, just kind of imagine that you're doing that right now as you're fitting for your underwire. Now, the thing about the sides, and like, I know this is really not like ideal for showing off like the shape of the breast root while I'm wearing like a huge thick sweater. The thing is, once we get over here on the side, like we have this shape. The shorter side is the center, and then the longer side is the side. And when you get over there, a well-fitting underwire bra actually springs open a little bit on the side. And it can be tough to replicate with the flexible ruler, because, you know, it's so flexible. But it's like, let's say the wire is like this shape, but when you're wearing it, the wings pull it open a little bit. And so if you find like, oh, this is like mostly perfect, but it's kind of stabbing me a little bit on the side, you know, it's like half a centimeter or so, which that's not a hard and fast rule. It can change depending on the wire type, size, etc. There's going to be a little bit of what's called wire spring. And so it's going to open up like just a little bit. And if that little bit of space is what you need to like be like, oh, boom, that fits, then perfect. That's what you need. And so you've done that. You've kind of picked your first size based on, you know, either randomness or because you followed the instructions in the bra pattern that you want to sew. If it does fit, then like, perfect, there you go. If it doesn't fit, then, you know, kind of move around from there. Like, let's say, obviously I know what size I am because I run a lingerie supply web shop and I have lots of underwires that I can just hold straight up to my chest and figure out if they are the right size for me. But I'm gonna try This is a 125. It's like the most annoying part. And it's just like it's way too big. And so you can just kind of go up or down as needed from there. Especially if you're still early in your lingerie sewing journey, like you might find that like you're not quite sure which one exactly is going to fit. And so in that case, maybe you do want to buy like 2 or maybe even 3 sizes. Usually there's like, you know, one that like you're pretty sure about, and then you can go like 1 up and 1 down. And then you just end up with a couple of extra underwire pairs. Maybe you have a sewing buddy that you can trade with. It's kind of like the small cost of figuring out like which size you will need from there on out. If you don't have a flexible ruler, or if you find them annoying or cumbersome, there are other ways to kind of transfer like this shape to your chest. You can scrunch up some aluminum foil and kind of use that the same way as a flexible ruler, or like pipe cleaner, anything that kind of like is flexible and holds its shape decently. You can also harvest an underwire from a bra that you already own. The thing is that this underwire, I guess it doesn't have to fit you perfectly. It can just be a guideline of like getting you towards the right size. But anyway, having like an example underwire is useful. Let's see. I'm gonna harvest mine in real time just to kind of show you what we're doing. So I'm just going in with a seam ripper into the channeling and taking out my underwire. Okay, so I've opened up the channeling and I've pulled it out. And so now I have like an actual underwire that I can just put up to my chest. I can like pull it open on the sides a little bit. And this one's actually too small for me. So I used to sew with 95s and then I went up to 100, which my measurements will never put me at that, but it's just kind of like how my body is shaped. The 100s fit me better. But let's say, for example, you harvest an underwire out of your bra. You're like, oh, actually, like this underwire fits me perfectly. Then you can just put it on your chart until you find the size that one fits. The thing about this one is this is a demi underwire and this is the everyday chart. So what I'm looking at is the kind of the angle of this curve and like the width of this wire. I'm not looking at the length. I'm gonna get to that later. But I can see that the 95 fits. And I know that for me, I go up to 100. And then if this is a bra that you like to wear, you just stick that back in. The colored tip of the underwire always goes into the center of the bra. You could also cut along this line, and you can take this paper to like a piece of cardstock or cardboard. Like I know that I'm a size 100 wire, so I'm just gonna cut there for the sake of showing how you can do this method as well. But if you don't know where to start, I would say unless you have like very easy access to a printer, I know for some people like printing is a huge hassle. It is at my house, so like I get it. Maybe start small, or like start kind of like smaller than you think so that you can cut out the small shape and then kind of like still use that same piece of paper. If your printer allows it, you could even print the underwire chart on the cardstock. And this is all, I mean, if you want to buy multiple underwires and just fit yourself at home, that's fine. If you have like a store that you can go to and just ask them if you can, like, I mean, obviously you don't want to like stick an underwire that you're not buying like against your bare skin. That's just a bit weird. But you know, you can get pretty close under like a thin, like on top of a thin t-shirt or something. But if you can, like, if you have access to underwires, like That's the best way. But if you don't, that's kind of what the point of all this is. And so then you're going to cut it out on the thicker paper. The point is that like the regular paper is just a bit too flimsy to get an idea of like how it's going to fit against your body. If you have something thicker, then you can really like, I mean, the underwire is metal, so it's very sturdy. It's not going to be flopping around like paper. Like something more thick like cardboard will mimic that. The only bummer is that you won't be able to mimic the wire spring, like that slight opening that you would get when you're wearing the underwire bra. And we know, obviously we're using paper scissors for this and not our fabric scissors. So this is the shape, but you just kind of do the same thing. And especially if you are naked and you're in a mirror and you can really kind of like finagle it into place. And I would say when you're looking at the fit, also, like I guess I can still just kind of like scoot the one end out of the way to kind of spring it a little bit. And so it's not going to be perfect, but these are all ways to kind of just see like, is this width, like, is that what's going to like fit my body? Is that how wide my boob is? So then you don't end up with just a ton of wires that don't fit. And the thing is, once you determine what your size is, that number should be consistent across different styles. And I give a long exasperated sigh because I know that's not always the case. And that's like one of the dirty little secrets about like lingerie sewing supplies. There is no standardization. There's no standards with underwires, with like these numbers, like, and people might say that there are, but I've bought different underwires from the same supplier and different styles have different numbering systems. So it's just like, the 4 styles that I am currently carrying in my shop, so that is everyday, demi, plunge, and long, they all have the same numbering system. So that means a size 100 in the everyday has the same like angle and width as the plunge, the demi, and the long in 100. What changes is the length of the center and the length of the side. And I say this just because like if you're shopping between different web shops and different styles and different like suppliers, like always refer back to their wire charts, which they should hopefully be providing. And once you know, like once you have like at your disposal, like, okay, this is my like everyday 100, I know this fits me. If you just like keep one of those around and then you can just print and say like, okay, does this fit? Like instead of like putting everything to your boob and looking for the gaps and does it fit my breast root, blah, blah, blah. Like once you find the one, like hold on to it. And so for example, like the different styles, like, so this is an everyday. It's kind of like medium high in the center and it's a bit higher on the side. This is a plunge underwire, and I'm not really going to get into like balance points or anything like that, but it's very low in the front and pretty low on the side too. And then I also have demis, which are like about as high as the everyday, but like kind of between the plunge and the everyday in the front, and then the long is higher on both sides. So just to kind of compare, like these both have the same colored tip. It's a bit hard to see. They're both orange. So they're both a size 95 actually. And so when I line them up, you can see like there's like a little bit of difference in like the shape, but like this part down here, that is the same. And that's because like that's what fits your breast root. And so then it's just more about like, what's the pattern that you're making? What's the style that you prefer wearing? Like, which is all too much to cover in just one video. This is just to kind of get you over the hurdle of like figuring out like which underwires do I need so that the bra will actually fit. But the point of that is that different styles will have different lengths, but figuring out like what number will give you this shape that fits your body, that's the important part. I would say the number that messes people up when they're ordering underwires the most is the length. Like, knowing the length is useful, but it is not the way to buy underwires. Like, so what is the point of knowing what the length of the underwire is? Obviously, like a pattern designer, they start with a certain underwire when they're drafting the pattern. And sometimes they'll say, I used this style from this shop, and that gives you a great starting point to like go to that shop, print out that underwire chart, and find the exact match for that pattern. Or even if you can't buy those patterns, maybe like location or whatever, you still have a reference, like this is the wire that pattern designer used, and this is like the kind of length that I'm looking for, the style, etc. There's also no standard terminology with underwires, so like one shop's regular could be another shop's extra long, or these words are all just made up. Like, despite what anybody tries to market, these words are all just made up. But the length can give you an idea of like how tall or short the sides of the wires should be. But if you get a bra pattern and it says, for example, like, the wire for the 36C is 203 millimeters long. If you're just looking at the length of the wire, so if we look at the 4 wires that I have in my shop, about 200 millimeters, so that would put you in a size 85 for the everyday, a 95 in the demi, a size 100 in the plunge wire, and a 75 in the long. 75 is like one of the smallest that I carry. And like, those are vastly different shapes from each other. And so there's still that missing element of like, what is the wire supposed to look like, and how does that compare to like what sits on my body? And so the point of knowing like the length of the underwire, it's really only important for kind of comparing like your gold standard, like your well-fitting underwire, like knowing the length of your underwire and comparing that to the length of the suggested underwire for the pattern you want to sew. So for instance, I've got the 95 everyday here, which is 233 millimeters. And so if you are about to sew a pattern that says the underwire is supposed to be around 200 millimeters for your size, so you'll be able to know from that your underwire, like either you're going to be making some pretty drastic pattern alterations to, be able to fit a longer wire, or you will have to trim and seal the ends of your underwire to be shorter to fit the pattern as intended. I have recently started offering test packs of underwires in my shop, so you could choose 3 different sizes of underwires and get them for the price of 2 pairs of underwires instead of 3. So let's say you go through some of these steps, you're really like holding everything up to your body, trying to figure out, and you're just kind of like waffling. You're not sure if it's this one, maybe it's a bit smaller. It takes a bit of the financial pressure off of like buying the underwires, and so you can test out exactly which one fits you best. Could you technically buy 3 pairs of the same underwire size and only have to pay for 2? Yes, and who cares? Thank you for buying from my shop, I really appreciate it. The main point that I'm trying to make with this video is you must start with a well-fitting underwire first. Now, will that underwire fit the pattern that you want to make? It's possible that the answer is no, and in that case you'll have to alter the pattern to fit the wire. At the moment of filming this, I don't have a video myself of showing how to make these sort of pattern alterations, but I've linked a video in the description, so either someone else's tutorial, or if one day I make my own, then I'll link it there as well. So I hope this helps you feel a bit more confident about getting started with sewing underwire bras. When I was working on this video, I actually got a message from someone who said she had bought several underwire bra patterns, and she hadn't felt ready to start any of them yet because she couldn't figure out the wire situation. So it made me feel like this would be a really useful tutorial, and then I got a couple orders where people were picking the most random sizes compared to each other, and I suspect they were going off of the length of the wires instead of like the shape and the width and the one that actually fits them. So I hope this will be a useful tutorial. I hope you guys never buy the incorrect wire size from me ever again. So go forth and buy the right underwires, and don't forget to visit my shop at smallbobbins.com for everything you need to sew your own gorgeous lingerie. All right, thanks guys. Bye.